Hello and welcome to a sort of combination TARDIS tropes and talking tropes. Today we're
Ooh.
celebrating Christmas. It's a little bit late, but we're a little bit late, and we're talking about Doctor Who Christmas specials. I'm David.
I'm Hannah, and we've got a special guest with us today.
Hey, I'm Victor. Hi.
Anyone who's listened to all of our TARDIS tropes, Doctor Who recaps knows Victor, but this is your first time if you're watching the video podcast seeing him in the flesh. So we all love Doctor Who Christmas specials, don't we, folks?
Oh
We
yeah,
do.
they're the best. We rewatched all of them for this, so our veins are just pulsing with pure Doctor Who Christmas energy. And before we get into our own personal rankings for them and ranking them on their Christmas-ness and their Britishness, I did want to say I noticed that there's sort of like two speeds of Doctor Who Christmas episodes. There's either it's all Christmas, like it's just about Christmas, or we're changing doctors and so it's all about that. Like those are the two
Oh,
main
okay.
sort of like
That's a
like
particular categorization. Victor, I
like
think you have a
world
different
shattering
divide, a
and
different
Christmas.
Well, I
50-50 split.
because I came into this already being asked to analyze these from Christmas and Britishness, but it seems to me like there are episodes where just like the Christmas element of it is like not very important at all. Like it's just like a Doctor Who episode and there's like a robot Santa.
Right.
But those episodes tend to be extremely British to make up for it. Whereas the other episodes are more Christmassy and just like they might very well like they are British, but I think because so much of Christmas like lore is British, like it doesn't stand out as much to me. Whereas when it's just like contemporaneously British as opposed to like Victorianly British, it's just like yeah, why
Like,
is
I
there
don't
a
know,
scene
it's
of,
life.
of Wilfred just standing in front of two Union Jacks and saying like God bless the Queen? Like but
So
yeah,
we
no,
thought that the best way to really celebrate Christmas this year, when we unfortunately, again, for the third year running, have no Doctor Who Christmas special, that we would go through
Tragic.
the unbroken chain of 13 straight years of Doctor Who Christmas specials. I mean, it was a staple, and they
yeah.
just got rid of it like that
Well,
because
it's
we
New
missed a year in
Year's.
the transition
David, it's New
between
Year's
Moffat and
now.
Chibnall. Well,
I
now it's New Year's, whatever. We can have both. We can have a New Year's special and a Christmas special. Who cares?
me and David discussed this before recording, and we came to the conclusion that Chibnall hates Santa Claus because he only ever got coal for Christmas, and so that's why he's determined to destroy the Doctor Who Christmas special.
Oh my gosh, I love it. The deep metal lore of Doctor Who. All right, so we're just gonna go in chronological order.
Yeah, I would
Starting
say
in
where we rank this
2005.
among the Christmas specials, and we're going to give it a rating of Christmasness on a scale of 1 to 5 Christmas trees, and Englishness on a scale of 1 to 5 cups of tea.
So you gotta know
Yeah,
how British this Doctor Who episode truly is.
Because they tend to be even more British than your average Doctor Who episode.
they do.
Uh,
They
they
do.
sort
It's
of
true.
relish in the national pride aspect of it, um, which just makes you think like, we don't have that same kind of relationship with our Christmas stories, do we?
Yeah,
Celebrating
yeah. You don't see the Grinch.
nationalism,
You don't see the Grinch standing in front of an American flag.
saluting the American
American
flag and
flag.
saying,
Yeah.
"We love
No,
our
but
troops."
there's me. It's the like capitalism of America that is
Right. See,
Christmas.
that's the thing, is that we've made consumerism our national religion. But
Right.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
let's go back in time to
Woo!
2005. We were in the throes of the Second Iraq War. George Bush was president, and Doctor
Doctor
Who had
Who's
just
back.
come
Yeah,
back, and fanboys rejoiced, fanboys and girls
girls,
alike,
And
yeah.
and
fangirls, yeah.
uh,
Tumblr
and
was
we
going wild.
and we had just had a huge finale where all the Daleks attacked and Rose Tyler got all the powers of God and destroyed them with the snap of her fingers. And then the Doctor regenerated, which everyone was like wondering, when is that going to happen? And it happened right then. And then immediately we go into something phenomenal, a Christmas special the Christmas invasion.
The
Where do
Christmas
we
invasion.
rank this one, folks?
This one comes in at my number 5. And I think a lot of that is nostalgia based, but I just
Yeah.
enjoy the shit out of this.
I'm
Like,
right there
it's
with
so
you. I
fun.
have this ranked number 4.
Yeah.
I have this ranked number 9.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Far
Okay.
down the
But
list.
my middle is pretty flexible. I really just
Sure.
have strong opinions about the top 3 and the bottom 3, really. But this one, it's okay. It's just like, I think the last act is really where it shines. Like, the build up is pretty bad. It's for me personally, it's just like not that engaging. The Doctor's out of it most of the time. The elements of it that are Christmassy are just like really surface level stuff, where it's like robot Santa and robot killer Christmas trees and stuff.
But robot killer Christmas tree. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
it's fun. I definitely like it more than most of the Russell ones. I would say it's on the higher end of the Russell ones for me.
Yeah, that's true for me as well. It's the highest ranked Russell Christmas special for me personally. I do like once the Doctor actually does show up, he does really make a great first impression.
Yeah.
And he
yeah.
sword fights with with an alien on top of a
'Cause
spaceship. Not very
didn't-
Christmassy, but
No.
extremely British. This this knightly sword fight, and then he's wearing a nightgown, and he I don't know. He meets with the prime minister, who then
he's
fires a prime minister laser beam into the sky.
but he's
That's
literally
great.
he's literally also like awoken by the power of tea, like the
Yeah.
Doctor. But I think the thing that makes this so British, that is, I think maybe a lot of people miss out on, is the Margaret Thatcher reference, which is like the whole like, don't you think she looks tired, is a reference to
Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher. And it's like, that's such a central point of the episode that I think Americans won't get, but that's so British. That it's just so British that you won't even know it if you don't know the reference.
Is it saying that like Margaret Thatcher
Because
didn't get her due because
no, because it
the
literally
Doctor
from
sowed doubt in the minds of sexist people? I don't know.
From my understanding, it's just that Margaret Thatcher, when she was finally like let go, I don't know, like when she finally stopped being prime minister, like there was a lot of like things, people saying that she looked tired and that like she should step down and stuff like that.
What about her health?
Yeah, what about her health? And so like I think it's but also
very British.
Can we talk about this? Because the implication is that like the Doctor either has like such a great hypnotic ability that he can dethrone someone by just like planting like a single idea in like one guy, or the way I choose to interpret it is the Doctor is deeply embedded in the deep state and has like orders to remove any single head of state upon command. They're just like a code phrase that he has to give.
Oh my god.
In order for it to be called into action.
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be like, anyone, if you raise the question of someone's health, that question can never be put down. It can never be silenced. It's like just a nagging question. And because I think it is just a reference to Margaret Thatcher, and they didn't really consider the Doctor Who superpower implications of it.
Right.
So how many cups of tea is this? Is it 5? Is it a full 5 for you, Victor?
I gave it full 5 because of the
Wow.
Margaret Thatcher. The Margaret Thatcher thing really took it over the top for me.
And the tea. Oh, and the tangerine in the pocket because
it's Christmas.
Because it's Christmas and British people have fruits
They
from
love
Santa
tangerines
or
on
something.
Christmas,
I don't
yeah.
know. I'm not British.
It's too British for us Americans to even truly understand.
You can't even comprehend the Britishness we're talking about here.
Exactly.
I mean, I think because I didn't quite comprehend how British it was, I only gave it 4 cups of tea. I didn't give it the full
Gotcha.
5.
Well,
And then in terms of Christmasness, we have these pilot
also,
fish.
Hold on, I also only give it a 4 for Britishness, just because like. I don't know. I guess it did have the prime minister in it, though. Maybe it
had this whole, literally the UK designated themselves, apropos of nothing, as the diplomats to the stars. For a bunch of guys who were literally taking everyone on the planet and making them jump off a cliff. At least that's what they thought. A third of all human life, everybody who has this blood type, we're all on rooftops ready to jump, and just like random prime minister. Imagine if Boris Johnson was in charge of aliens. It doesn't make any sense.
or any one leader really. David, what did you rank it for cups of tea?
I have it at a full 5. I
A full
thought
5.
I thought that worked for me.
All
And then
right.
Christmas-ness, I had, just a 3, about
Yeah.
middling.
I,
We've got
I
these pilot fish, which are they describe them as pilot fish by using, so they don't really have a name, I don't think, but they're like it's like a metaphor that they're like fish that swim out in front of sharks to try and eat food before the sharks get there or something. And they're robots that just dress up like Santa and like the Christmas tree because they're
They
trying
were
to
Fit
trying
in.
to eat the
scouting.
doctor. Trying to eat the, is that what they're doing? They're
No,
trying to
no,
eat the doctor.
they're scouting ahead. Like they show up first. Like the fish show up before the sharks, and then the
Right.
sharks come.
But
And
what I'm
so-
saying is, what are they trying to get? Because they said that they're following the doctor's like regeneration burps. But like, what are they getting out of that? Do they eat the burps? Do they suck on
I
the doctor's
guess.
face? What do
They
do?
just want to smooch him.
They just want to shoot people with a cannon that looks like a trombone, and then they want to spin a Christmas tree really fast to scare Jackie Tyler for no reason.
So
It's great.
I gave this one a 2 out of 5 on Christmas-ness, just because it feels so it's just in the monster design mostly, like how they do the Christmas-ness. So it's like
Well, there's also the snow at the end. Remember,
And
it's
the-
snow, but it's not really snow.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually disintegrated alien carcasses.
Like I think a 3 is definitely also fair. I just think it's just like there is nothing about this episode that could not, with a minor rewrite, make it not Christmas, right?
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
That's entirely true. But I mean, it started a tradition that would last until
13 years.
until 2017.
Yeah.
So
All
what
right.
about 2006? This is after the season 2 finale where Rose disappears into another dimension.
We get the runaway bride, the introduction of my girl, Donna Noble. Boom, number 6 on my list, right under.
And
Right.
also pretty much the start of, guest stars being a big part of these
A little
Christmas
bit.
specials.
Yeah.
Because Catherine Tate no one ever thought that she would be a regular on the show.
Companion.
No.
But she stood out, and she didn't have a lot going on, I guess. But this was like, she was like a big guest star, like, oh, bring on a big comedy person from her sketch show.
Right.
Yeah.
So
but
what did you,
it's great.
what did you rank this one, David?
I gave this one a 7 out of 13. I thought it just doesn't really make me excited about about season 3. It's so disjointed, and it's not
Kind of dark.
it's not a great episode. It's just there's a lot of like campy bits that I enjoy, but a lot of it's just kind of walking around trying to get places.
I mean,
car chase. Kind of
The
lame
car chase
things.
is fun though.
the car chase is fun. Yeah, like I think this episode I ranked it 10 out of 13, so it's right next to Christmas Invasion for me. But I think it has the opposite problem where like the buildup is so fun and campy, and like there actually is like a decent amount of like a romp to be had there.
Mhm.
But then by the time you get to like the second half of the episode, it starts getting dragged down by the actual plot, and like the spider lady just looks bad. Like I know that's kind of
think she looks amazing. I don't know.
I
think
think
she looks
I think there's
bad.
like one of the more arbitrary like criticisms within Doctor Who episode, because like every monster in Doctor Who looks terrible if you're being honest. And so it's just like, why do people hate the Absorbaloff but love I don't know, like some other random monster? And it's like it's really just comes down to personal taste and preference. But me
But you don't like
personally,
this design.
she's a little too over the top, and I don't like the Doctor, spoiler alert, commits genocide on these people, and I wish it had been done with a more dramatic looking weapon than just like these floating balls that he's controlling with like this RC remote control.
Oh, yeah, it was like a GameCube looking controller thing.
And with like the little like antenna and everything. Like it looks like something they bought at Radio Shack, because they probably did.
We've got the same pilot fish robots, which I guess are coming out in front of the spider lady this time. But it seems like the consistent thing with them isn't that they show up when there's a big alien invasion coming, but that or when there's a regeneration. It seems like they show up when it's Christmas.
Yeah.
They're Christmas fish. They're not pilot fish.
They're Christmas fish.
What did you rank it, Hannah?
I already said I
Six,
ranked this
7.
this one number 7 or number 6.
Okay.
Sorry, right under Christmas Invasion for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, as
Mostly
far as
because
Christmas,
the ending's just kind of sad.
the ending is sad. It doesn't really make you feel joy of Christmas. It's just like we blew up the Christmas star with the spider in it, and then we drowned all of her babies.
Yeah, and I think the problem I have with this episode is like I think the first half is a fun Christmas special. Donna Noble is great in it. Like there's a lot of fun to be had. And I think the problem I have with it is that the second half is like a good Doctor Who story. Like the idea of like the Doctor going too far is obviously like a classic trope that they play around with, and it's like and like so in that regard, it's like good, but I don't like the particular execution because I don't like the spider lady and I don't like the weapon they use. But also, it's like yeah, you're right. That probably would have been a better story to tell in like the beginning of a season or something like that instead of or near like at some point in the season and address
or just
it more
like not
directly.
as your right, like not as your Christmas
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the idea of like a woman being teleported onto the Doctor's spaceship on his wedding day, and she's like this oblivious person who missed all the previous invasions of the UK, and yeah, I mean, like she's a fun character, and it's great that they brought her back and gave her more opportunity to be in better episodes. And I do really like the Ragnos, I have to say, much more than you do, Victor. I love it when she says, eat you up, I'll snick a snack.
Yeah.
And I love it that she's like always laughing at these humans, but also like doing bits with them. Like when
when the guy's like gonna hit her with the axe you're talking about.
Yeah, he's sneaking up on her with the axe because you still think that the person that Donna was gonna marry is still like a nice guy. But he's sneaking up with an axe, and then he goes, just kidding. They really thought we were gonna fight, but they weren't. They were on the same side the whole time. But then she just eats him because why not? Or drops him down a pit, right? Yeah, it's funny. So Christmas-ness for this one, I also gave it a 3 out of 5 for the Santa robots. No, wait, I gave this one a 1 out of 5 because it doesn't even feel like it's winter time when they were filming it. I think they probably filmed it in like the summer. Everyone's wearing like short sleeves and walking around outside. It's really sunny out.
I gave it a 2.
Yeah,
like it was this because it's like the wedding, the Christmas wedding, and I don't know.
Yeah,
there was like a little Santa.
More of a wedding episode
there
than a Christmas episode is all.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
I gave it a 2 Christmas trees as well. It's because it's just like this one, like everywhere they go, there is something to remind you that it is Christmas. Like they have like tinsel in like the taxi cab and stuff.
Right.
But it's just like it is all so.
It's a service.
Yeah, it's just like. They were like, oh shit, we need to make this Christmas. Let's go grab this box of Christmas supplies.
Like they took a draft from some other part of the season. They're like, fuck, we'll throw some tinsel and now it's Christmas.
Yeah.
I gave it 3 cups of tea for Britishness, just purely for Donna Noble. She's very British in this.
Well, she's British, but there's nothing particularly British about the events. It's
like, I put
there's
it
a
as
Christmas star, but that could be anywhere. It's like
but it takes place
it
takes place in London.
Yeah,
that's more Christmassy than or that's more British than like some of these.
Yeah,
I mean, they all take place in like an English type place. Everyone speaks Englishy except for one.
Not always.
Not always. That's true.
I don't know. I could be convinced to knock it down to a 2, but I have it at a 3 because it at least takes place in London on Christmas, or not on Christmas. Well, it is on Christmas, but it takes place in London, and Donna Noble's very British.
And they drain the Thames.
And they drain the Thames.
They drain the bleeding Thames. All right, moving on to 2007. This ain't 2006. This is 2007. Voyage of the Damned. We have another guest star. I mean, we have several guest stars, but really the one that they marketed was Kylie Minogue as this servant on the Titanic serving drinks, who then falls for the Doctor and then dies tragically.
Yeah.
Because you can't get Kylie Minogue to do a full season of Doctor Who, not like Catherine Tate.
There's a quick aside, but I like how the guy who is wrong about every historical fact of like Santa Claus and like what Christmas is also the guy who's like, Doctor, don't even bother saving her. It's not, you can't do it. It's impossible. And he's the doctor's like, okay, well, all right. I guess I'll just kiss her and then kill her. I'll kiss her ghost and then kill her because this guy who's been super reliable.
Everything.
Yeah, wrong about everything. Told me that I can't save her. So
well, he has a degree in earthonomics, but that doesn't mean that he's wrong about how teleports work. We talked about this one a lot when we were talking about like Russell T's bad writing tropes, which is just that he creates like a cast of quirky like side characters to just kill one after another.
There's so many characters in this one, and they all like I don't care about any of them.
They're all
very bland.
It's David, where is this on your list?
This is ranked 11 out of 13, so right at the bottom. Really,
this is 13 out of 13 for me.
Yeah, this is 13 out of 13 for me as well.
Could happily never watch this again.
I had to watch this for the first time because of this episode. This is one of 2 episodes of Doctor Who I have never been able to finish of the modern series.
Wow.
Voyage of the Damned and Fear Her. Fear Her is now the only other episode I've never finished. But I watched all of Voyage of the Damned last night, and it's so bad. It's awful.
I ranked it a little bit higher just because of the brief Bernard Cribbins.
Yeah, and that's the only good thing about it.
Introduction as Wilf.
Yeah.
There are a few jokes that work. There's a few really campy scenes that I just love because they're so ridiculous, especially the villain who is a talking head who's bald and has a mustache and a gold tooth, and he says, "My name is Max." And he winks.
Yeah, and his tooth
lights up. Yeah. And he's attached to like a fucking bulldozer that's like his body.
Yeah.
And so he's a cyborg. And there's also all these weird jokes about how people are like homophobes for cyborgs.
Yeah.
On the planet where these people come from, and I just find that to be somewhat interesting and entertaining.
It's also just like the budget of the show did not allow for this kind of quality of Christmas special. Like it's way too ambitious, and as a result, it looks like dog shit. It looks so. Yeah. It's the most aesthetically gross out of all the Christmas specials, I think. Like
you're right, yeah. It's not like the big open hall of the Sycorax ship. This is like tight corridors with like pieces of random metal just like toppled over. And then this awful CGI thing of the engine that people keep falling into, going, whoa! Yeah, and it looks about as good as the green screen that I'm in front of right now.
Yeah, no, it looks like a Linkin Park music video at times.
That's a great description.
But also I don't like the cast of characters because it does feel like kind of like I don't think this was Russell's intention, but it does feel a little exploitative and gross. Like it's basically like, look at these poor fat people, they're so poor and fat, and then look at this little person. He's red and has a funny voice. Isn't that funny?
Funny accent.
Funny name.
He says, "My name is Banakabalata. I'm foreign."
Yeah, and then all these people die also. Like,
right. I also love the idea that like he's a cyborg who has an EMP.
Yeah, just like
that's a terrible design choice for a cyborg.
It's just like a bummer downer of a Christmas episode too, because it takes place on a spaceship named after the Titanic. So we as viewers all know where this is going, and it goes there. So it doesn't even.
Well, no, I don't think it doesn't actually end up sinking or crashing or whatever.
Well, most people die. A lot of people.
Most of the people died.
Yeah, but they're all killed by these angel robots,
which are just recycled like the Santa robots.
Also, wait,
except lamer.
Max's plan was like to create like a huge disaster so that his company would get fucked, right? But like, why does he have to be on the ship? Because his plan is just to like stay in like the safe part of the ship and like have people come rescue him. But why even be on the ship? Is it just to avoid suspicion that he did it?
Probably.
I have no idea what the plan is. It makes no sense. There's no following it. And it fails because the doctor's like, I'm a stowaway, so you have to take me to the person who's in charge of the ship. And so then they just do. And then he shows up, and then Kylie Minogue on a forklift just goes, and
Yeah.
drives him off a cliff,
That like the
killing
scene,
both of them when she could have easily jumped off the forklift.
yeah, the scene where the doctor talks the angels and not killing him because of like a loophole felt like very Bugs Bunny-esque to me. Like it's just like this is not a
It's Wabbit season.
Yeah, it's just like now it follows from this logic of yours that I am not.
I'm not a passenger, so you can't kill me.
Yeah.
It's like, I think you are a passenger, even if you're a stowaway.
Yeah.
I think an advanced robot species would be able to more or less figure this out.
Right.
Yeah, and then the ending where the doctor is like talking to the professor of Earthonomics, and he's like, oh man, it turns out only the rich asshole survived.
Yeah.
I guess you probably wish he died instead of your girlfriend, right?
Well, it's also like, what's the implication of that scene? Was the doctor literally contemplating murdering him? Because it's just like the guy's like, well, if you could decide who lived and died, you'd be a monster. And it's like actually like, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I shouldn't go murder this man right now.
I guess it was just set up for the Time Lord Victorious.
Yeah,
later.
Yeah, it's all set up. But yeah, it's not a very good episode, is it?
No. It's very
What
bad.
about Christmas-ness? What did you give it?
I gave it 1 Christmas tree.
Yeah, I gave it 1 out of 5. It's not Christmassy at all.
It's not very
Yeah, I mean, Wolf is kind of dressed up Christmassy, and he's like, oh, it's London on Christmas.
Yeah,
don't you know that's always when the aliens invade? And so it's sort of self-referentially sort of Christmassy.
Yeah. I mean, like it is that has that, but Wolf is far more British than he is Christmassy.
Yeah,
it's true. And then the angels, I mean, that's sort of generic Christmas iconography.
Barely even Christmas.
Yeah, like it's not even Santa robots now. It's just angels.
Right. Yeah.
I gave it 1 Christmas tree.
And there's that moment where they say, "We've forgotten angels can fly." It's like, you forgot?
That's their whole deal.
A great moment.
But then the flying looks like shit. So
they're just on cables.
And
like the wings don't even really move.
And it luckily turns out that like one of the members just happens to have an EMP built into his body. So.
Right, that's how they beat him. And then Englishness. What did you have for Englishness?
I gave it
5
3.
out of 5.
Oh,
I gave
shit.
It has the Queen.
I'll split the difference with 4.
I knew I was gonna give this a 5 out of 5 as soon as I saw the scene. There's this one scene like in the middle of the episode where Wolf's introduced, where it's the doctor and Wolf are talking, and Wolford is standing behind 2 Union Jacks behind him, and then he's like, "God bless the Queen," and then it cuts to like Buckingham Palace, and it's like the Queen with her little dog, and she's like, "We got to get out of here before the thing crashes," and it's like,
that's true. I did. That is true. I could bump this up to a 4 or maybe.
Yeah, it's just that like the source material of Titanic and the source material of the plot of the episode is a lot more like the Poseidon Adventure, where it's it's a bunch of people within the ship trying to escape.
Is the Titanic a British ship or is it American or is it?
There are a lot of British people on it because it's going to America. England.
Yeah.
I don't know who owns it. It's just like, it's pretty British, but it's like, it's like you don't consider it like a famous story of British hubris. It's just a famous story of human hubris.
I think there's some very British moments, but I think it's not the most British thing on this list.
No.
I think it might be the Queen. They show a shot of the Queen, like, and Wilfred standing in not 1 but 2 Union Jacks, and like,
you're really into these 2 Union Jacks
because it's like not 1 but 2, and they're so big and right behind.
And you just wouldn't see that in an American Christmas special.
I also
could imagine that in an American Christmas special.
I mean, it's very rare that I've seen anyone stand in front of 2 flags that are the same flag. Like usually they're one flag and the other's. Unless you're the president of the United States, unless you're like the prime minister or something, you usually limit your appearances to 1 flag. Is all I'm saying.
I don't know.
So I have a quick question because I'm not sure if this is the case. These episodes, like the Russell ones, right? They're filmed for like the square aspect ratio, right? Not widescreen. because it's
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't paying
because
attention.
the one I saw was zoomed in, and I couldn't tell if it's that it was shot widescreen or if it's that HBO Max just zooms in so that it fills up the entire screen. And that might have also affected how much these two flags impacted me, because they were taking up so much of the screen.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm not sure how HBO Max has been optimizing them. That's where I watched all of these episodes as well.
Yeah.
This is an ad for HBO Max.
Sponsor us.
Yeah.
Should we move on to 2008?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The next
it's
doctor.
2008. We've just elected the first black president. The UK is experiencing something. I don't know.
It's a recession.
It's a recession for sure. And so we've decided to return to some Victorian values in the next Doctor.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna make fun of me, I think, but I put this at number 3.
Oh,
I'm not too far off. I have it number 5. I really like this
Okay.
episode.
I put it at number 7. I think it might be my highest. It's technically not my highest Christmas one, but I'm seriously doubting my own ranking here, because we'll get to it soon. But yeah, I have Next Doctor at number 7. It's the second highest Russell one I have on here.
Okay.
All right. Well, I have it as I have it as my second highest Russell as well, behind Christmas Invasion. I like the Next Doctor. It's a load of fun. It's very
so fun.
self-referential, which I like. I like self-referential episodes. And we, of course, knew that the Doctor was going to be regenerating after the season. We didn't know how many specials he had left. We knew he was going to be leaving the show, and that Matt Smith was going to be. Or maybe we didn't know it was Matt.
We
Smith
didn't know
yet.
it was Matt Smith.
But we knew there was.
We knew
be
he
a
was
Doctor.
leaving. And so, you know, I mean, me, like, watching this on Netflix back in 2012 or something, like, I knew that it had to be soon, but I was like, when is it gonna happen? And then we see this guy, and it's like, that's not Matt Smith. Who is that? This is the Next Doctor? This random guy? And no, it wasn't. He was a brainwashed guy with a dead wife and child fighting Cybermen in Victorian London.
But like, he's so earnest. Like, you gotta love this guy, you know?
Yeah.
But he's so earnest.
Yeah, so unapologetically like, yes, quick to the TARDIS. It stands for a hot air balloon made of tarp.
It is fascinating and just like fun as, you know, a viewer of the show to sort of go through. You know, it's basically like if your dad suddenly thought he was the Doctor and was like running around your house being like, hop in my TARDIS. It's a cardboard box and some 2x4s I found in the garage. And you're like, okay, Dad. Like, that's the whole energy of it.
Yeah, it's a cosplay. And then, you know, the
plot
Doctor
itself is whatever. It's not particularly great.
It's not what you're supposed to be focused on. This woman who is like a woman scorned. She hates Victorian men because I think maybe she was mistreated by them. She maybe was a former prostitute. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah,
unclear. She gets in a giant robot suit and has her brain wiped, but somehow is like takes control of all the Cybermen in the world because she's a woman scorned.
Yeah,
marches a giant robot around downtown London.
I mean, this episode has a lot of fun stuff in it. I don't think the villain is the best part of it. I think that's really what holds the episode back from being like a great episode. I think like because the doc, like, it's a lot of fun. The Doctor is fun. The idea of like steampunk Victorian Cybermen should be fun. I don't think it totally nails the landing, but I think it's a fun idea. And yeah, just like the troll of like trolling your audience and being like, well, you know, the Doctor is regenerating. This could be the next Doctor. Ooh,
this could be it.
This could be.
And are we meeting the next companion as well? Like Rosita? She's great. I mean, yeah. It's just a shame that that the villain was so lackluster. But what about Christmas-ness? I thought this was a fairly Christmassy episode. I'd say, you know, 2 or 3 Christmas trees out of
I gave this one
out of 5.
I gave this one a 4, but mainly just because it like looks Christmassy throughout, because it's always snowing. It's like Victorian. Like these are very Christmassy settings.
See, that to me, like the Victorianness of it was more British to me than necessarily like Christmassy.
Sure, but it just the snow. I mean, the
snow,
winter, It
I
feels
I
very,
gave it a
very
3.
Britishy, but also very
Like I'm between. I
Christmassy.
give it a 2.5. You know, I was going
Right.
between a 2 and a 3, so I settled on 2.5.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 just because like throughout it does look like a Christmas special, like at least what I think of as a Christmas special. Whereas like some of the other
Sure.
Russell ones, it just like very much just happens to
Set
be.
in the summer in
Yeah,
London
like
in a shopping district,
yeah. It just like
or
feel watching like that.
underground, or in a spaceship that's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
bunch of tunnels.
Whereas this
Yeah,
one looks like the kind of location where you would set a Christmas story.
that's true. But at the same time, it's like the plot has nothing to do with
No, it
Christmas.
doesn't. It doesn't.
No,
There's no Santa robots here. They're
No.
just regular robots, and they don't
they're
look
just regular.
Christmassy at all.
I also
So
gave it a 4 cups out of 5 on Britishiness. It's also
I gave it 5 cups of tea. This felt full British to me.
this
right,
went
all the top hats
full
just really
Brit.
make it.
So
Yeah.
it's in Victorian London. So like that's an
Yes.
automatic 3 right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Um,
Victorian London in these coming up.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about this episode is just that I love the fake out of the fob watch, where he's got a watch that he won't open, but it's not a fob watch that's making him human. It's just the thing that ties him to his dead child and wife, which are so tragic. It's so good.
Misdirect. All right. Next in 2009, it's technically part 1 of a 2-parter. Woo!
Right.
The end of
The-
time part 1.
Yes. So this came out on Christmas, and then apparently there was a 5-day wait for the conclusion because part 2 came out on New Year's. So that was technically the first New Year's special before Chris Chibnall ever tried to do Resolution. But this is Russell's last Christmas special after doing like an Easter special and then just like a random November special.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was the year of Doctor Who movies. There was no
Right.
season. It was just movies.
Yeah, specials, yeah.
Yeah, and they were basically just like episodes. I mean, they weren't like longer, I don't
They
think.
were.
No, they're longer. They're like a little
Yeah.
over. They're like an hour and
At
10.
least an hour, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they just most of them just felt like regular episodes. I mean, like Planet of the Dead to me, it's like that is just a random Russell episode. It could have been did not need to be
Right.
Easter.
Yeah, it probably would have been better if it had been shorter because it would have made it snappier.
Yeah, and then Mars, the
Waters of
Waters of Mars. Again, it's a good Russell episode, but
Right,
it's
but
just a
but
Russell
so far
episode.
we've been doing, a year of goodbyes to David Tennant, and this is the real one though.
Yeah.
with so many like guest stars in
Yeah,
each
yeah.
one. And this one
Mhm.
had some guesty stars too, I guess, in the form of the Master coming back, and Wilf
Wilf.
coming back. All of our fan favorites, I guess, and then I'm sure there were some other actors in the background that British people would recognize that I definitely don't.
Yeah.
But yes, the end of time.
Where does it fall on your list, David?
6 out of 13. I think it's still
Wow.
pretty good. I think it still holds up.
Victor, where is it on your list?
5 out of 13. It's the highest ranking Russell Christmas special.
It's a fun
I have to
episode
say-
even with
It's-
Skeletor.
Yeah, it is fun. I rewatched it and I was surprised. I hated this episode for a long time, and now I like it.
I have it at number 12. I
Wow.
still do not like it. It's just the worst of Russell. Just scraping the bottom of the barrel and like patting himself all over the back and being like, I'm so beloved and edgy, and this doctor's so angsty. And
Well, that's largely part 2. I mean, like I guess he's already.
No,
angsty
it's
the
in
first
part
part.
1 too.
Yeah, it's in part 1. Yeah, because he's talking about dying and stuff. But that's just Tennant. I mean, like that's just an essential part of the character. And
Yeah.
like,
but I hate this ending for the character because it wasn't so much. It wasn't this. This is like over dramatic teenager angst levels.
no, but like Tennant is like the 10th Doctor is the most annoying and angsty out of all the Doctors. Like I like him. He's one of my favorite Doctors, but
He's great.
he's
Oh my
like I
gosh.
think the bigger problem with it is just like Russell couldn't decide. Like I don't think he ever fully decided whether he wanted the character to be like how morally ambiguous he wanted the character to be, because like the 10th
Mm.
Doctor fluctuates so much between being literally Jesus and being just like this selfish pretentious like prick, right? Like, and it happens all the time. And
Yeah.
I think that leads to a really interesting character. Like, if you want to interpret, like, if you want to actually make sense of it, I think you can. Like, he is a
Yeah.
multi-dimensional character. I just don't think that's how Russell was writing him at the time. He just didn't think about that, the disconnect between those two factors.
Yeah, I mean,
as
you knew
much.
he was going to be angsty about his transformation because he in the previous like season finale, he literally poured all of his energy into a hand and then sent it off to marry his ex-girlfriend
Yeah,
because he
yeah.
was so upset about
Right.
changing
I
his
know,
face.
but I don't have to agree with that decision or enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Like,
Right.
and
But-
so it's number 12 for me. And I love Wilf, but like Wilf is wonderful, but then the whole like Donna's here, but not really here, just like
right.
makes
Yeah.
me more
That's a
sad
shame. That's a
about
waste
all
of your
the
Catherine
drama.
Tate. But what I love about this episode is the Master
Yeah,
and the
it's-
resolution of the Master's arc, where he's resurrected from the dead using like dark voodoo magics, which is great. And then he has lightning bolt hands, and he's like a Super Saiyan, but he's also Skeletor. And then he jumps into a magic toaster that turns everyone in the world into him, the Master
It's-
the
Race.
race.
It's-
Yeah.
To get any more Russell big time
Like,
finale vibes.
yeah. I mean, the thing to me is just like when I and this, like, in general, like, my shift on this episode has been a shift on my feelings about the Russell era, because I used to really be a total Moffat stan, and now I think the Matt Smith era has aged pretty badly. And I think the Russell era is the exact same way it's always been, which is it just can't be like TV garbage.
Mm.
But god damn, does he go out with a bang? Like, this episode is
Yes.
crazy. It's fucking bananas.
And
It's
honestly,
like, you're bringing back the
if-
Time Lords, you're bringing back the Master, you're
Yeah.
bringing back Skeletor. You didn't even know Skeletor had to be brought back.
Yeah, and you've got Wilfred with these like heartfelt speeches with the Doctor and talking
Yeah.
about like whether it's morally right to take a life to save your own, and he's like, I can never use a gun to save my own skin.
Yeah.
Take this,
Very
Doctor.
British.
I love you, Doctor. It's wonderful and adorable, and Wilfred is the best companion. I will hear nothing else.
Yeah, I love Wilfred. I love me Wilfred.
And I don't know, like if Moffat never touched the Time War again, like if this was the final word on the Time War, I would have been satisfied. Like, it is a strangely revelatory and succinct summation of Russell T's stance on what the Doctor's relationship to Gallifrey was and the difficult decisions he had to make.
But
it was
it's
great.
also just, it is a damn good conclusion to the Russell era in terms of like it touches upon like a lot of the stuff that he made, like the Time War, the Master. Like it does like kind of like tie up, maybe not nicely, maybe you don't like the way it is, but it does at least tie up those loose ends, and like it's the Russell era is done. Like, it's a
Yeah. All
it's
right. So Christmas-ness, how Christmassy is it?
I gave
One.
it a 2, if only because Wilf really brings it with the Christmas. And
Yeah.
for me,
I gave it a 3 just because of Wilfred's antler thing.
right? Like,
But-
they're incredible. They're very.
That's not
and he-
enough for me. You need a Christmas-based plot to
Set
really
the
get me to
Christmas
give
cheer.
you those Christmas trees.
Yeah, to get
and
to.
then what about Englishness?
Englishness.
I gave it 4 cups of tea because it's quite.
Just for Wilf?
No, not just for Wilf. Like, I don't know, just the prime minister people, and I guess that's
Yeah.
more part 2 though, isn't it? Or
I mean, the prime minister is not even really like a major character in this one. It's the president who gets.
it's the president. That's
It's
right.
Yeah.
Barack Obama has a plan to solve the
Yeah.
economic crisis, and it gets deleted from his head, and that's their in-universe explanation for why Obama sucks so bad at getting us out of the recession.
It's a good thing no one wrote that down anywhere. Like, he just had the answer in his head. But what I do like about that episode is, one, in terms of Britishness, I think it's pretty standard Doctor Who. I don't think it's especially British. I'd give it like
No.
I think I gave it a 2. But in terms of 08-ness, how much it gets a perfect 5. It gets a perfect 5 out of 08-ness.
Oh wow! What would you give? Well, what would we did Christmas trees, cups of tea? What would be the symbol for rating
How many
it out
hopes?
of
How many hopes do you?
Hopes and change.
Yeah, how many hopes and change?
Hope and change posters.
It gets a 5 hope and change posters. But what I like about it so much is I do like this throwaway line. There's these homeless people that get eaten by the master, and before they're talking, they're like, "Did you hear about Obomo and how he's gonna fix the entire economy?" And the guy's like, "Well, I bet we're gonna be left out of the recovery." And it's like Russell knows, he gets it.
Right.
He
And
knows.
of course, in that same scene, if I like the spider lady saying, "Eat you up, I'll snack a snack," I'm gonna love John Sim just being like, "I love the grease and the grime and the hum num 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 num." When he's talking about eating people.
And then crap,
Yum.
what's his name? Timothy Dalton, is that his name? The guy who plays
Yeah, that's him.
he's great
As
in that role.
Rassilon.
Yeah, as Rassilon. He's a great Rassilon.
Absolutely, and great guest star.
Yeah.
He's a former
Yeah.
Bond, right? Was he a Bond? He's got to have been a Bond of some
I
kind,
don't
right?
think so.
I don't
I'm gonna
know.
Google it
But
real quick.
but he's definitely got gravitas.
Yeah, Timothy Dalton was a Bond. So that's some Britishness
Oh,
right
shit.
there. All right, moving on.
Boom.
2010, the first Moffat Christmas special, and boy, does he's feeling himself on this one. This is A Christmas Carol. Where do you have this ranked, Hannah?
This is my number one.
Victor?
This is my number one as well.
This is my number one as well.
Yes.
We're all in agreement
Yes,
for this one.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. A rare event. 3 Doctor Who fans
Agree on
agreeing
something.
on an episode.
Right. I mean, we've been pretty close on most of them. I don't think there's been any like huge discrepancies, but A Christmas Carol is just the best Christmas special in Doctor Who history because it is.
It's
just to start off with Christmas-ness and Englishness, it is five Christmas trees and 5 cups of tea.
I
no
agree.
question.
I put it as 5-5.
Oh yeah.
And it's also, but I also think it scores a 5 out of 5 on Doctor Who-ness. Like, it's also just like, it is an optimistic episode. It is like an episode about like people changing and like good things. And it's also just, it's a retelling of a classic Christmas story, but in a Doctor Who framework, and it works really well.
Yeah,
it's got the wibbly wobbly.
It's sort of the Christmas story, as Hannah and I explored when we talked about Christmas specials in America. All of the American Christmas specials happen to be centered around the Dickens tale of redemption and learning to be more generous and giving and resolving your childhood traumas through Christmas-ness.
Right.
So I don't know if there's too much to say about this one, honestly, because it's just so perfect. But
go watch it.
Yeah, we take the Christmas Carol story and then put it through Doctor Who, and he doesn't just like copy paste. A lot of the Christmas Carol parodies that you see in America are just copy paste. But this was really like, well, okay, we're going to do the Ghost of Christmas Past. If it's Doctor Who, he's going to really go into the past of the Scrooge character.
Yeah.
Played by Michael Gambon, of all people, who's just fantastic in this role. One of the best performances in a Doctor Who episode from a guest star.
Yeah, very good.
Oh, man. What else do you guys have to say about it?
Yeah, it's a fantastic episode. Go watch it if you haven't.
I mean, I think this is also some of like Matt Smith's Doctor at his best,
Yeah.
He, in terms of like total off the wall, like energy, this was totally up there. I think this sparked a lot of like really iconic lines, at least on Tumblr at the time, from what I remember. They were pretty iconic. And
there's just weird off the wall stuff, the kind of stuff you would expect in like a Russell special. Flying sharks,
yeah.
Why not? It's on an alien planet. It's Doctor Who. You don't have to follow the logic of the original story,
right?
And the thing with Matt Smith being so good in this one is that I think it's like that sweet spot where it's like he's coming off season 5, where I think it's his strongest like season as an actor, and it's before he gets totally Flanderized in the later seasons. And so it's like he can be wacky and goofy, like he's hanging out with Marilyn Monroe and marrying her or whatever, but he's also like has a lot of gravitas to him, and like there's that dimension of it, and it's not just like out like completely like
he's got that wise old man in a young man's body. And I love what they did with the Ghost of Christmas Present, where it's it's Amy and Rory as holograms showing him who's going to die because of him. And it's sort of like a Tiny Tim moment, except for it's 4,000 people in a spaceship crashing to Earth.
So kind of even worse than Tiny Tim.
if you can
You
even
know.
Right.
comprehend something being worse than Tiny Tim.
And I love all the stuff that they do with like the theming of the skies and taming the skies, and so it never snows on this planet because they've locked all the ice crystals in the stratosphere, and it's always cloudy and dim and grim, and it's so Victorian steampunk in the aesthetic.
Right.
It's a gorgeous looking episode, very well
Yeah.
shot. And I just love the character arc of like this abused child who has to overcome his abuse to be less of a xenophobic, miserly, jaded old man.
Right.
And even like introducing love into his life doesn't fix him immediately. Like just giving him a girl that he likes is not enough to resolve all that tension. It's not until he really confronts his childhood trauma that he overcomes it.
And I think that unlike the Russell Christmas specials, Moffat is actually makes, like, not always, but when he does a good one, or at least I think he attempts to actually say something about Christmas, like at the concept itself and the holiday itself. It's not just something that a Dr. Who story that happens to take place on Christmas. It's like, okay, what is special about Christmas? And like in this one, it's the sentimental thing of like, they will have Christmas Day together and that is enough. Like just the idea that they have one more day together and it happens to be Christmas, and like that's like the magic of the thing. Like that's like, and it is a nice sentiment. And it is very Christmassy, unlike anything we've seen during the Russell eras, or just like robot Santas and stuff. This one is a true Christmas special, like in
and it's the darkest, shortest day, but it's the most joyous.
Yeah.
Why
do we, like it's like in the middle of the darkness, humanity has to make something about brightness, and that's why the explanation of like why does this alien planet have Christmas? It's like it's a universal.
Because every alien planet would have Christmas on their winter solstice.
Yeah. It's just like the idea of celebrating during the winter solstice is universal because it's so miserable, and so like it is about finding the light in the dark. That is what Christmas is about. Is what his answer in that one is.
Totally. It's just the best. I give this one 5 out of 5 Christmas trees. It's just Christmas is integral to the plot. It's everywhere. It's all Christmas all the time. 5 Christmas trees.
Yeah. All right. And then for me, it's a pretty huge dip when we go to 2011.
Wait, we didn't say cups of tea.
Yeah, we did. I said at the beginning. Sorry.
I
said
5.
5.
Because it's Dickens. You can't beat Dickens at being
British.
English. He's Dickens, for Christ's sake.
I did knock it down to a 4.5 only because it didn't take place in actual Victorian London.
But how British is it to think that all of your colonized planets in the future will look exactly like Victorian London?
Yeah. That's fair. Never mind. Full 5.
Full 5.
All right. 2011 was a big dip for me personally. That was The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, which I have ranked as my worst, my 13 out of 13.
Damn.
What did you guys put it?
11 out of 13.
I have it as 7 just because it is so Christmassy. Like it's not a good episode, but I could totally put this on like Christmas Eve or whatever and just like be fine with it, you know?
Right. I mean, this is an episode with like no stakes and like no tension other than like this really artificial, like they wandered into an alternate dimension world portal and then it's going to acid rain in like an hour if they don't get under some shelter.
Yeah.
And it's like, it seems like that shouldn't be too hard to do, to just find some shelter.
I mean, it once again tries to do like another. I mean, this one's significantly less Christmassy, but it does like the line, the witch in the wardrobe. Obviously, it's like the object too, but it's not
which is
nearly
pretty British.
Yeah, it's not nearly.
It's very British,
well
but
done.
it's not a Christmas story.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, I guess it is. There's a Santa does show up in Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, right?
Well, it's not like Santa exactly, but sort of, yeah.
Father
There's
Christmas.
like a Father Christmas type figure.
Right. So I guess like the book
and
is
also
just
those
more
books
Christmassy
are
even than this.
Also,
where it's
the
just
books,
like, oh, there's a Christmas tree that grows naturally, which is, come on.
What do you mean? Come on. I don't know. It takes place on Christmas. He's lured in with
Yeah.
presents. They go back and have Christmas dinner together. It's very Christmassy.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
And it's like a pine forest.
yeah, the world they go into is like Christmas world.
Yeah. It's all snow and pines. Like that's very
Alright.
Christmas. And
Fair
it's like
point.
takes place during World War II.
yeah,
with,
that's
like-
very
Alright.
British.
Like it's very British. It's very this got a 5 out of 5 on both Christmas trees and cups of tea for me.
I think
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I gave this one a 5 out of 5 on Britishness and a 4 out of 5 on Christmas-ness.
Yeah, just because it's not like a particularly
Well-
Christmassy narrative.
Yeah, because
Because it's more about like coping with the death of your husband who didn't actually die.
yeah, it is very British because it's like Narnia and it's like World War II and so it's definitely extremely British. But yeah, I mean, it's just ultimately this episode is just very forgettable. It's a deeply forgettable episode.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
It's middle of the pack for me, I think, for that reason.
Also, they just have all this weird stuff about like I think this was in like a period where Moffat was like getting criticism for being sexist. And
Oh,
so
this
he wrote
Thing about
in
women
like
being strong.
yeah. Oh, so according to this tree species on another planet, women are actually strong and men are weak. And then it's like they need a mom to transport them with this magic
Yeah.
crown. And
No.
the trees turn into like a wooden man and a wooden queen. Very
Very
strange.
weird.
Yeah, it's not great. And it's also just like not necessarily like I'm not gonna say you can't do something interesting with this idea, but like I think like probably being like, no, I get that women are strong. I mean, they're mothers. It's just like not necessarily.
Being a mom's
Right.
hard.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
kids
you know.
are just so forgettable and they have no personality. And then the
Yeah.
doctor just spends the whole time being so season 6, season 7 quirky. Like he's
Like
so
too quirky.
flanderized and
Yeah, he's so
unwatchable.
quirky. Yeah, I mean, his quirkiness just gets too off the rails. Someone
Yeah.
needed to rein him in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so good in season 5, and by the end of season 7, he's so bad.
All right. Next on the list is 2012, The Snowman, or The Snowman, excuse me.
The snowman.
The Snowman, jeez.
Season
Where do you
7,
guys,
guys.
where do
We
you have
love it,
this-
don't we, folks?
where do you have this ranked?
I have it at 9.
Me too.
I have it at 12.
Wow, okay.
I don't think that's unwarranted. I mean, like this is during a point where Clara literally is still not being defined because this isn't even technically Clara.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's another Clara from when she jumped into a time hole.
But we
and
don't
got
know that
split into
yet.
a million pieces.
But we don't know that yet, David.
That's true. The only
But they
well,
were
the-
still trying to define her, and like we're doing a terrible job of it.
Yeah,
and
I am-
they have this was the introduction of Vastra and Strax in those.
yeah. Well, no.
yeah.
They were introduced in the Good Man Goes to War, but there's like
Yeah.
That's
there's
right.
like when they become like the ongoing unit that you're gonna see way more
Right.
times
This
than
is
you
when we
want.
see where they're from in Victorian London.
And yeah.
Where they're
Where they-
based.
Go
Yeah.
on, or no, are they in Wales? I can't.
No,
I think
they're
it
in
was
They're in
filmed
London.
London. They're in
Wales.
London. They're in London.
Pretty
I think
sure
it was
it's
filmed in
London.
Wales though.
There are things I like about this episode in theory. Like I like that the Doctor is in mourning, and I like that he lives on a cloud and is like isolated himself from the world and has stopped being the Doctor. Like it's dumb fan shit, but it's like I eat that kind of dumb fan shit up. Like I love the hero
Right.
retires and then has like after like some sort of tragic trauma or something like that, and then like gets back in it. Like that's a good. I do like that kind of story, but the Snowmen are just such a bad villain. The main villain,
Yeah.
The
guy,
great intelligence.
the great intelligence, which is like some like reference to a character that no one remembers from like the second Doctor, and they don't do anything with. And I just remember that he says, "Winter is coming."
Yeah, he does say that, and he dresses up as Sherlock Holmes because this was during a time where Moffat was
I was writing
really
Sherlock.
stressed writing 2 different shows, and he was trying to say, "Look, everybody says that my Sherlock is written just like the Doctor, and the Doctor's written just like Sherlock, but actually, I write them totally different. Here, I'll prove it." And then has the Doctor pretend to be Sherlock Holmes, and he's a goofball and like can't
Yeah,
stay on character and can't deduce anything. The villain is played by he would go on to play General Pride in Star Wars.
Mm,
Remember that
no,
Sure.
guy?
I don't.
He was in the episode 9, the one that just happened
Technically a year ago, but it
a year
feels like
ago.
it just happened.
Wait, did episode 9 come out a year ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So he's like he keeps talking about how it's like this is Snow with Victorian values because they're like very individualist and money oriented and
Yeah.
like, trying to take over the world because they're
Probably
imperialist.
anti-masturbation too.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
it's smart snow that you have to harvest, but it has to
It's dumb.
contain
It's
the memories of a
boring.
girl who's scared of her governess.
Clara gets fridged
No.
again to motivate the doctor, and it's very boring.
Right.
And who cares?
and she's an impossible girl. Did you know she was impossible?
She's so
She's-
impossible.
She's
like,
not. She's
how?
not. She is not possible.
And she has a
Upon-
secret accent where she's secretly Cockney.
Upon
Well,
seeing
Barmaid / governess.
upon
'Cause she
seeing
has
Clara in season 7,
two sexual stereotypes about
Victorian
tropes of
women.
Victorian women.
seeing
don't
Clara in
get
season
it.
7 should just break your mind because it is not possible that she could exist, and so your disconnect just is going to force your brain to break because you cannot comprehend how this character could
They're not the
exist.
same character.
It's
as in season
impossible.
8.
It's
My
Yeah.
least favorite part of this episode has got to be the one word test. Where
that's the
Oh,
pawn
yeah.
thing. The pawn thing. The pawn thing is dumb, but I do like the scene where Clara is talking to Vastra about like. No, I was thinking of the Veil scene in
it's a totally different episode.
yeah.
That you're
That's a totally
thinking
different
of.
episode. It's a much better conversation. No, the one
Right.
word.
And
test
even
is
I don't
just
even
dumb.
like that. But but the point is, yeah, Vastra has worked out this deal with the doctor that if the people looking for his help can explain their problem in one word,
and that word
that will
happens to be
convince
pawn.
him, and then he will help them. And the word that Claire comes up with is pond.
Pond.
In the episode, I think it's supposed to be like fate is doing it, but
Yeah.
in the grand scheme, we learn that we just don't know how much these splinter versions of Clara remember from her past life. Anyway,
I-
so
I
I guess
didn't
she
try to make
knew
sense
that
of
the
it.
doctor would respond to the word pond.
It's dumb.
I
Let's
guess
move on.
I'm gonna say it's the Christmas fates.
Did
So
we
what-
give
what- how
it?
much
Did we rate it?
Christmas-ness?
I gave it a plus 3 Christmas trees.
I gave it.
Really, even though the villains are man-eating snowmen and it takes
Yeah,
place in
because it's-
Victorian London,
But it's not
uh,
really
in
Christmas.
the
It's not like
snow?
Christmas though.
It is Christmas. How
It
is
is
that
Christmas? Does
It's
it
it
take
not?
place?
I mean,
When do they? Is there a Christmas tree anywhere? Do they say Christmas?
yeah, I don't even know if they say Christmas. I did put
Yeah.
it at a 4 out of 5 on Christmas just because it was like snowy Victorian.
That's
stuff.
why I gave it 3, but it's because I don't think they even said the word Christmas.
Yeah, they might
so
not say
that's
the word
why
Well, in
it's
terms of
only a
Englishness,
3.
it's got to be a
I'll
5
knock
cups
it down
of
to
tea
three.
for sure.
It's
Yeah,
5
just
cups
5.
of tea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
five
Because they
all
just
the
keep
way.
talking about Victorian values and Sherlock Holmes.
Right, exactly. Plus, we
Yeah.
get Cockney Clara and like
yeah.
posh Clara. And
Yeah,
it's
very
just all over
British.
the place.
It's very British.
All right. Moving on.
2013.
Get us out of season 7, for God's sakes.
The time of the doctor. Goodbye to Matt Smith.
Oh
Goodbye.
Lord.
Yeah.
Time of the doctor.
Bye.
All right. What's
I
your
have this
ranking?
at 8. It's slightly above
too.
Snowmen, but it's
I have this at 4. I
Wow.
like this episode. It's garbage, but I like it.
I hate it so much.
I
The-
like it. I like
is-
old. I like
okay,
seeing
will
Matt Smith
say
and old
to
man makeup.
start, I will say to start, Christmas-ness 5, Englishness
Yeah.
5. No
It's
question.
better.
Really?
I don't remember. I didn't think it was that.
It's
British.
not that British.
Well, it's the British idea of Christmas, all these British Christmas traditions, the Christmas
Yeah,
crackers,
I put this one.
making
I
a
put this one.
Christmas turkey,
I put this
and
one at a
meeting
2
with
out of
your
5
family on the
on
Christmas,
Britishness.
and oh Lord, just like going to church on Christmas, and
There's
like, all
not that
these
much,
things.
but most of the episode doesn't even take place on Earth.
But it takes place on a very Earth-like planet
And
that's again looks like Victorian,
And it's called Christmas.
And it's
Or
called
London.
Christmas.
and it's a town called Christmas.
Okay,
Like, It gets a 5 for Christmas-ness.
I
Right,
could
and
only
the
give it a
doctor
4.
acts like Santa. He becomes like a toy repairman.
Yeah, but there's nothing. to me, it's not like it's saying anything about Christmas. It just happens to take place on Christmas. Like it's not.
Right.
Oh, there's so much Christmas stuff there. I mean, it's as Christmassy as
But it
you
doesn't
know,
say anything. Like
About
if
Christmas.
we
It's not
compare it
about
to a
Christmas.
Christmas Carol,
Yeah,
right?
it's not about
I don't
Christmas.
know
It
if
just
that's as
happens to
important.
have Christmassy stuff in it. So I
Like-
would give it only a 4 out of 5 for Crees.
I can feel that. I only gave this 2 cups of tea. I did not find it that British.
Yeah, I gave it 2 cups of tea too. I didn't think it was that British.
I thought it was full British, just with all of the references to specifically British Christmas, where you couldn't mistake it for American Christmas for sure.
But yeah,
All right.
mainly I just like this episode because I like I'm a sucker for like I like the trope of like what does it mean for the Doctor to stay, because like that is a thing that like Moffat has built up exploring of like I think each showrunner has to like have some amount of like moral ambiguity for the Doctor, and it's like okay, what makes the Doctor kind of do like morally dubious, like
Ambiguous.
questionable, like question something you could question. And like I think Moffat really is centered on this idea that well, the Doctor always runs away, he never sees things through, like he just kind of jumps from place to place. And so like telling the story of like the time the Doctor stays is I think interesting, and I'm a sucker for seeing the Doctor like age and become an old man and stuff. And I like
hate the old man makeup though. It's so bad.
it is bad, but I like it. I'm a sucker for it. And
it's as good as when David Tennant gets old.
It's not
in
good.
his wheelchair.
Very bad.
And as dumb as the whole like Doctor Who subplot is, like I think the idea that like you don't really
It
need to know.
resolves. It's like
yeah,
End
it
of
resolves.
Time. It
It resolves. Yeah,
resolves.
you don't need to know. And like the idea that Clara's like talking to the Time Lord, she's like, you don't need to know his name because you need to know like who, like that's not who he really is. Like it doesn't really matter who
His
like, what his
real name is the Doctor.
Doctor, and that's
Mhm.
all you need to know because the Doctor will say you, right? And so like that
Trans
I think
rights
is-
are human rights.
Wow.
Moffat said
I don't
trans
think that
rights.
his name is supposed to be. I don't think like saying his original name is dead naming. The
Yeah.
No,
Doctor.
but like a little.
Maybe.
I mean, you could
In that
certainly
if
read
you
it that
say
way.
it, the world will end and he will die. Anyway.
But yeah, I think there's some decent. I think I like Journeys and like the End of Time Part 2. I think it's a good conclusion to that era. It's off the walls. There's a lot of stupid shit going on, like the Cactus People in End of Time. There's a lot of dumb shit going on
Yeah.
here. But I think ultimately for me, it's a pretty satisfying conclusion to the Matt Smith era and to like the stupid silence arc. And like yeah, it's extremely rushed. It's extremely rushed. But I
So-
think
I'd say like
I
the
think it's all
middle
right.
of the episode is like mostly okay, but it's where it really like bothers me is just how obnoxious that first half of the episode is, where you've got going to Clara for Christmas and then they're naked and there's a bunch of
Yeah.
jokes about how Matt is naked and then they go naked to church and then there's a bunch
Yeah.
of flirting with the head of the
So
church in the
much flirting.
mainframe. And she's like the worst written character.
I think there's a lot of very bad Moffat tropes that show up in this one. Much like how I think there's a lot of bad Russell tropes that show up in the end of his
Sure.
Mhm.
like
The
End of Time part. Yeah, the End
I
of
just
Time part 1 and 2.
I think Moffat's bad tropes bother me more than Russell's because Russell's can be campy fun, whereas Moffat's are just like, ugh, just like burn my ears off with all this talk of like, yeah, I'm a sexy Norwegian boyfriend.
Yeah, no.
And we're making a turkey in the TARDIS. I don't know. That part isn't so bad. But I just and then they bring the silence back and they're priests and they're dressed up like vicars. Like,
It's
come
very
on, this is
weird.
terrible. The one joke that I really like in this episode is when he's facing off against the wooden Cyberman and tricks it by telling the
it's
truth
exploding
because they're in a
itself.
truth field.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a creative and interesting idea.
Well, because he's like, I just sent a signal that's gonna reverse the way you shoot, so you're gonna shoot yourself, so you got to reverse it first. But then it doesn't work on wood, which he leaves out. So
yeah. So he told the truth, but not the whole
the
truth,
truth.
and that's how he tricked that.
Yeah, I think
Cyberman who was
that's
made
a
of wood.
fun. I think that's a fun solution to that particular problem. Like I don't know. I think it's a fine enough. I like it. That's all I'm saying.
There's things about it that work. That's why it's not ranked, 11th or 12th.
Yeah.
But I still think it's no better than the 8th.
To me, it's also like at this point, Matt Smith's Doctor had been so flanderized that I was just
Yeah.
ready for him to get the fuck out. So I
Right,
was like,
and where
yeah,
he's
yeah,
talking
yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
oh, where's Barnable and
Right,
handles,
and the
I'm
Cyberman
senile.
head, and like it's just like whatever. I don't care.
Right.
End it. Make
Yeah.
me
Right.
excited for the new Doctor. You know.
And even the setup of like them going to the planet is so derivative
Yeah.
of the end, or the Pandorica episode,
Yeah, a
because
little
it's
bit.
like, oh, a signal has attracted all of these alien spaceships. It's like it's all the same shit.
Yeah, but I mean,
And
I
then
think it's fine to be a
the weeping
callback.
angels show up for like half a second just to be like a, hey, remember them?
Well, no,
Right.
and I think it also, well, I think it also does build off the last episode, which is Time of the Doctor, which is like, okay, now the Time Lords are not dead. So like, I think it does. I think it is relatively smart world building to it, the fact that they address that immediately and are like, oh well, now if the Time Lords do come back into this dimension, like a war will start out and the Time War will start out, and so like that's what this whole thing has been building up to. It's
It's smart world building.
yeah, it's smart world building because it's actually like, okay, what is the logical impact of reintroducing the Time Lords into the world, and it uses that world building to also tie into the Silence arc. And although I think it's extremely sloppy and rushed, I think it's a neat idea.
Right, but we all know that the way that they did the Gallifrey stuff is way better in the Capaldi era. So let's move on to the Capaldi era
Boom.
already. Please.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it. The next one, what year are we in?
2014.
2014, and it's Last Christmas.
I gave
You
you
me
my
my
heart
heart.
the
And
very
next
day.
day.
You took it away.
The worst Christmas song, but continue.
I don't like it very much.
Where
Last
did
Christmas
you guys?
I like very much.
Yeah, where did you put it on your list?
3.
3.
2. Wow. All right. So
Very close.
This
yeah.
one made our
high
top.
ranking.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is a very silly episode. It's literally, I mean, and they state this explicitly in the script that it's like The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, but with Santa. And that's delightfully bizarre as a concept. It's, the thing from outer space, this shape-shifting alien from the North Pole, from the coldest place on Earth, and then just a bunch of people trapped in a space station or a research station.
I mean,
trying to figure out what's going on.
I think, like A Christmas Carol, this one is really good at taking like a classic Doctor Who thing, which is like the John Carpenter's The Thing, and then also imbuing it with Christmas in a way that's not just superficial, but it's also examining constructs of Christmas. Like, I personally think that like the whole idea of like every Christmas could be last Christmas, and like that's like what makes it so special is that people gather around, and it's like, you don't know what's going to happen next, but at least we're all here together now. I think that's a really sweet sentiment. And then even the Santa Claus element, like the idea that Santa could save you even though he's not real, and the fact that he's not real doesn't mean that he doesn't matter.
Believe. You gotta believe in the spirit of Christmas.
I think
just
both
like you
those
believe
things,
in the Doctor and you believe in humanity.
It's
all
and
great.
I think both those things work really well within a construct of a Doctor Who story, and they also wrap up the season 8 finale relatively well with like the fact that the Doctor and Clara did lie to each other, and they have to resolve that. And like Danny,
I mean, keep in mind this was still during a time where, I mean, every year this was a problem, but Clara kept having to renegotiate, or sorry, Jenna Coleman kept having to renegotiate her contract and re-up her contract. So in the Snowmen, they didn't know if they were going to have her or not permanently, and then we also didn't know permanently if we were going to have her the next year's Christmas special. And then this year we were like, oh God, is she going to be sticking around for another season? Because we've just had them break up.
But I think it works. I think it works in this case. And I think like even the fake out, like, because usually fake outs feel very cheap, like a way of emotionally manipulative. But in this case, it's like, okay, like it is that they get, like, that is the Christmas miracle, is that they get a second shot at this thing. Like it could have played out that they never did reconnect until it was too late, but because it is Christmas,
and it would have been fine. I love that the way that Moffat writes often is such that like he presents two alternatives such that either one would be a very emotionally resonant ending, and that that definitely comes to fruition in Hellbent next season. But I love that. He says, well, what if she did grow old, and what if she did have her own life? But nah, we can go out and keep adventuring. It'll be awesome. What about Santa, played by Nick Frost? What did you guys think?
Great. Incredible.
He's good. I like him.
I'm
So
surprised
fun.
we hadn't seen him as
He's-
Santa before. He's very jolly. He's
Let me put it this way.
sassy.
Look,
He's
look.
great.
He's no Kurt Russell in the Christmas Chronicles, but he's damn good.
Delightful, delightful. So
Yeah, he's
I
great.
mean,
I love all the jokes about well, how does he go to everywhere in one night? It's like, I've got two sleds.
Yeah.
boom.
And then, everyone making fun of the fact that nobody likes the oranges or whatever,
Yeah.
but that's his signature present. It's great. I love all the Santa jokes. And canonically, I'm pretty sure there is a real Santa in the Doctor Who universe. So he could be real. Ooh.
Could be. I gave this a 5 out of 5 Christmas trees.
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's got Santa in it, and it's on Christmas.
Yeah, I felt.
Yeah.
How many cups of tea did you guys give this?
I gave
I
it
think
one.
two-
I didn't see
two.
it as very British at
Yeah, I
all.
didn't see it
Yeah.
very British.
It was 2 for me. Like,
They have a Christmas cracker. They have
there's the oranges.
There's the
they
oranges.
have the
There's a
oranges.
few-
It's a specifically British Father Christmas.
Yeah, like
but
it is a British Christmas, but it's not. It feels more just like a cultural fact that it was
Yeah.
made in Britain rather than like an
Right.
explicitly British propaganda
Right.
piece, which some of the Russell things feel very Britishly propagandistic.
You're absolutely right. And then what do we think of the dream crabs and the Inception stuff? Does that work, or is that kind of just a distraction from the stuff we
It's-
really like?
I mean, I think it's
I think it's fine.
fine. I think it's like it serves its purpose, right? Like it's not the ideal, like it's not like the most beautiful way of doing that thing, but like I really do like. I think I like the fact that they play around with dreams because one, it allows you to do like the reality stuff with Santa being both real and not real pretty
Mhm.
cleanly. But two, like it lets you get into like the psychological stuff with Clara and Danny and like all the stuff that's going on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so I think that is well
It
done
is
in that respect.
some Moffat cliches. He always brings back the same like 3 or 4 ideas. It's the Dream Lord stuff of not knowing if you're in
Yeah.
the real
Dream
world or
or
the
not.
dream world. And the way that they solve the problem is literally just by believing that they're in a dream, and then they just wake
Yeah.
up. So it's kind of an easily solved
Well,
conflict
I
once
also-
they realize what the conflict is.
Well,
And then the don't think about it is just like the bank time heist bank episode
Yeah.
where you have to
Yeah.
not think about what you're doing. Don't
But-
think about anything.
But one thing I think Moffat does this multiple times. I'd have to think about it more to actually like realize if it's a trope or not. But like I like it when Doctor Who does this thing where it's like it introduces like kind of a ridiculous concept that tests your
Suspension of disbelief.
suspension of disbelief and then basically acknowledges it. It's like, of course that wasn't real. Like, why did we believe that was real? That's ridiculous.
Right.
I do like that kind of stuff where it's just like, oh right, like you are supposed to.
Yeah.
You like
It's
is Santa
like
really
much
real?
like Inception commenting on how film tricks you.
Yeah.
Moffat was commenting on how not how dreams trick you, but how he tricks you into
Right.
believing the reality of the world. All right, moving on to 2015. We're getting close to the end here.
Yeah.
We have the Husbands of River Song. So this is after Hellbent, after we've lost Clara, and again we have the Doctor pouting or mourning, and then we have him mourning again and dealing with the end of things, the end of the River Song arc, long after you thought it was already over back in The Name of the Doctor.
For real.
I have this one ranked as number 2, right below A Christmas Carol.
I have it ranked
Wow.
number 2 as well, and it was very close for me between A Christmas Carol and Husbands.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
for
have
me
this.
as well.
I have it as number 4, so it's just outside of my top 3. But honestly, thinking about it now, I might put it above the next Doctor at my number 3.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
it
just
is
think this
fun.
one is so emotionally resonant that like as a Doctor Who episode,
Well-
and I think we talked about it when we were talking about, Moffat's writing and Russell T's writing, that like this is like Moffat doing Russell and he does it better than Russell. Just a little bit. And I think the campiness and the fun romp of it all, just even though it's not maybe the most Christmassy or the most English episode on here, it is one of the best episodes of Doctor Who, period.
Yeah, and it was at a time it was potentially going to be Moffat's last episode, and I think it works as a closer to Moffat's era because I think like my interpretation of like what I think Moffat's trying to do macro wise with the characters, I think with the Matt Smith era, he's really interested in deconstructing the failings of the character and like talking about like his vanity and like a lot of the stuff that's brought up in the Russell era and like how he's a god now and like and then like the Capaldi era is more like returning it back to like a sense of normality and like having the Doctor become the Doctor, like this ideal that he strives to. And I think part of the thing that really needs to be addressed there is like he can't just be a child that like is unwilling to accept endings, and he has to like actually face the consequences of things. And like I think the River Song arc is a good way of doing that, and I think they do a good job of doing that in that episode.
Yeah, I just think I just think everything about it works. The introduction of the Doctor, where he's sort of a grumpy, Christmas hating, goofball. He doesn't want to have reindeer antlers put on him by the TARDIS.
He's the Scrooge now.
He's a little Scroogey, but then immediately he kind of lightens up, and the episode is very lighthearted. He gets mistaken for a surgeon who's supposed to remove the head of a dying monarch of an alien race in order to steal a diamond that's lodged in his head for a heist. And that heist is being orchestrated by none other than
Capaldi
River Song.
And River Song have so much better chemistry than Matt Smith and River Song.
I think they do. They do have good chemistry. I think they work off of each other well. And just the fact that she doesn't recognize him and they just banter back and forth with, not realizing that they have a whole history together is very cute. And I love a lot of the like world building stuff, I guess. Like we heard about the Towers of Beryllium in earlier episodes, but now we know like how that played out, that the Doctor took River on a big romantic date to a hotel
for 24 years
in the ruins of a spaceship crash. And then they lived there happily for like 25 years, and then they left, and then the events of Silence in the Library happened. It's cute.
I mean, I feel like this episode, the only reason I think I had it at number 4 is because this episode always feels to me like Moffat's apology to River Song for how she ends up
not giving her a good enough story.
I think the entire Capaldi era, I don't know what the fuck happened, but I think there must have been a time between Matt Smith and Capaldi where Moffat actually looked at the criticism that's been thrown his way, like both like the sexism stuff and like just all like the tropes he's been doing that are just not work anymore.
He stopped writing Sherlock. That's what it was.
Yeah. And then I think he looked, but I don't think it's just that, right? Because he actively corrects bad things in his writing. Not all of it. Like I'm not gonna say he's perfect during the Capaldi era, but I think going back to the Matt Smith era, it's like, oh man, it really smacks you in the face with how bad some of his writing tropes were.
Yeah.
And I think
it's just also a lot more fun. It's less dour. And like even like the kind of forced fun of like the Wedding of River Song, it feels like someone's pointing a gun at me and saying, have fun. There's dinosaurs and stuff flying around. It's fun. And then this is like much less like that. It's just a relaxed kind of like, oh, we're running, we're doing a heist. Now we're in like this big fancy ballroom, but we're being sly and
the whole plot has kind of a looseness to it that really works. Like because it's just like the real part of it is the Doctor and River, and like what they're doing doesn't really matter that much. They're just kind of being chased around and they're on a romp and like they're doing random shit, but it all flows very nicely. But it's a very loose flow, I feel like.
I agree with that. So Christmas-ness?
I give this a 1 Christmas tree. It's not really Christmassy.
I gave it a 2.
Englishness?
Oh, I just gave anything with snow. Like, I don't think I gave anything a 1. Like, it is still a Christmas special. Like, there is still snow. The Doctor.
For you, if there's snow, then
he's wearing
2
antlers.
Christmas trees.
He's wearing antlers. Like,
all right.
He says if you're carolers, you'll be criticized. Whatever. There's jokes about Christmas, but it's just not a very Christmassy episode. 1 or 2, I think, is fine.
Yeah.
Englishness.
I gave it 2.
Yeah, I gave
2
it 2
cups of tea.
I don't think it was a particularly British episode. I'll go down to 1. I don't think there's anything. I can't think of anything of British that I have in here. I'll give it a 1.
Nardole is very Britishy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There is an air of Britishness.
I mean they had like guest stars, I guess, that were British stars, so that gets a point for Britishness. All right, and that was, I think, the last good one. And
I would agree.
And also it's one of the best. So could have gone out with a bang in 2015, but instead we get 2016, the return of Dr. Mysterio.
This one's number 11 for me. It's
12.
down there.
I
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
hated
I
this.
I ranked it as 8, but I would most likely put it down with like a Doctor the Widow and the Wardrobe, which is like 11. So it's probably closer
Yeah.
to 10, even though I put it at 8.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I personally like Christmas-ness 1 for me.
Yeah, this is a 1
Englishness
Christmas.
1. It's
Yeah.
or 0 even. It doesn't even take place
right. It's
in
New
a
York.
British-ish
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
It's in
yeah,
New York
it's in New
City
York. Yeah,
for no
0
reason.
Britishness, 1 Christmasness.
Terrible. Awful.
But I do like the fact that this episode, I believe the title is a reference to the fact that in Latin American countries, Doctor Who was, at least during the classic run, maybe not now, I know this because of my dad, was called Doctor Misterio.
Ah.
So I do like that Moffat is alluding to that. I like it's not particularly well done, but I think like I do like that they at least address like the Doctor being sad about River, but that's pretty basic. Like that's pretty like bare minimum.
Mhm.
Like I think in the right mood, I might enjoy this episode better than
It's
some of the other Christmas.
watchable.
It's
not like you can't get to the end of it.
Like
I
it's
mean,
a weird
boy, is there
transition
just
for me.
like nothing going on here. He feeds a magic jewel to a boy who wishes to be a superhero, and so then he is, and then they replay the exact plot of like Superman 1 or maybe Superman 2 even.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a good episode, but I do think it's somewhat fun. I don't know.
There's some
it's
fun
just
aspects to it. Capaldi's having fun during it. He's in the mode where he's like about to be in season 10, where he's like a goofball and he's fun. So he's like, eating a yogurt and doing spy stuff and whatnot. But then there's just like weird jokes that really don't land. Like the girl reporter has this squeeze toy.
Yeah, that
like,
joke.
This toy feels pain, and then it like makes a noise, and that's how she interrogates.
Yeah, the squeeze toy is so weird. I really don't to this day get it. Like I just don't understand what we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be processing that scene, to be honest.
Right. Is it supposed to be character building? Is it supposed to be funny?
But it's just like why is this effective? Like why is the Doctor influenced by the squeeze toy?
Because he feels empathy. He feels empathy for
but they don't show it that like that. It's not like it was like or something like that when she squeezes like okay,
it's just like not very well shot. Maybe,
yeah, it's really confusing.
Well
and also because it's in America, the accents are so bad. Like most of the American accents.
So bad.
I mean, the main guy is actually American, isn't he? The guy who played Goku in the Dragon Ball movie.
Is that who that is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is American then, but he still sounds bad somehow. Like he's faking his own real accent.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
like Andrew Garfield in the episode where he's in New York. He does a better like New York accent than this guy. Like,
yeah. The villains, they're sort of derived from a throwaway character from the Husbands of Riversong episode. Because the guy like splits his head open.
Right.
He's got like a holding space in his where his brain should be.
Yeah.
And so these guys, they also have split heads and they have little brains inside that peek out of your eyes like this.
Your brains.
It's a bizarre plot, but I do enjoy that aspect of it being bizarre and kind of disturbing. Even for a Christmas special, bold choice, but it doesn't go anywhere. Like the replacing people thing doesn't go anywhere. The way that they stop the big plan to blow up New York City is Superman just catches the thing that was going to blow it up and then throws it into space.
Yep.
He's Superman. That's what you're supposed to do.
Who cares?
And then the thing about Superman being a nanny instead of a reporter and like having to, and he's in love with like the Lois Lane type.
It's feminist, David, because he's the nanny. Yeah, it's breaking gender stereotypes. It's so feminist.
Well, I don't know if it's even trying to be. But
I think it is.
What I took away from it is just this whole thing with like the will they, won't they of, the ghost superhero and then him as a regular nanny and then the girl. It's like there's no tension to that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Will they or won't they? They will. Like both are very into each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few jokes in there that are kind of funny, but like it's nothing that hasn't already been done in other superhero mediums and better. Like the
Yeah.
like, oh, they have to balance the dual identity wackiness. Like, yeah, that's something that like a lot of superhero works have already done, and this is not a particularly shining example of it.
No.
Yeah. And then maybe somewhat anticlimactic, but should we move on to our final Doctor Who
Christmas
Christmas
special.
special, possibly the last one ever, because again, we've found that there was a 1 year gap where Chris Chibnall decided, I'm going to take my sweet time making season 11, and then he decided, no, we're just doing New Year's
But
specials from
you
now
know
on.
what, David? At least he took his sweet time because that man did it pay off that season. Perfecto.
Sweet shit.
Yeah.
But this
all
may
right.
be the very last one, 2017, Twice Upon a Time. Where do you have this one ranked, Hannah?
I have it at number 10, but I'm reconsidering that. It feels too low.
I have it at
I
6.
think it's tough to place.
Yeah.
I also had this one at 10. But I would understand 6. I don't know. It's like it's hard to
Yeah.
place
I mean,
because while nothing really happens in the whole episode, the interactions between the interactions between Peter Capaldi and the actor playing William Hartnell's Doctor are cringe, but they are also kind of clever and fun and interesting.
yeah, I mean,
But they're so cringe.
I think
They are cringe.
I think this episode, like, the problem I have with it is like the potential for it is so good. Like, it's the final Capaldi episode. It's going back to the first Doctor. It's going to be It's a Wonderful Life.
And the pitch was, what do It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
With the Doctor regenerating, choosing whether or not to regenerate. That has so many implications because what is, It's a Wonderful Life is kind of a time travel story.
I mean,
it's an alternate history story.
Yeah.
What so they could have done
a
time travel alternate history of the Doctor if he never regenerated.
It could have been so good.
It could have been Turn Left Part 2.
Yeah.
Right, amazing. Exactly. It's exactly just could have been Turn Left.
Yeah, it could have been an amazing Christmas episode where it's like the first Doctor and the Capaldi Doctor go down like the timeline of where the Doctor doesn't regenerate after his first iteration or something like that, and then you see like all the stuff.
And you just get to consider all of the difficult decisions he's made. It could have been such a love letter to the fans, like the fans of Classic Who. Like you could have even like tried to cast some other Doctors, maybe from behind. Like you don't really see them. It's like, look, that's when you were the second Doctor, and that's when you were the third.
No, there could have been. There's a lot of things they could have done in this episode. Instead, what we got was like the first Doctor and the 12th Doctor just like really making way too many jokes about how the first Doctor was sexist. Like,
right.
And he's just like, look here, young lady, I'm gonna smack you in your jolly good bottom, eh? And it's like, did the first Doctor even ever say that? I don't know if he did, but
he was. I will say that for this episode, I did actually watch. There was a Christmas special in Old Who.
Yeah.
It was an episode called The Feast of Stephen, and it came out back in 1965. In between like a big Dalek serial, and basically they just dick around, and the Doctor is very dismissive and kind of rude and a little bit sexist, so I think that is accurate, but it's just weird to harp on it, like look how far we've come when
I think in part
Moffat's writing has not been super feminist. It's been passively feminist for like a season.
I think it's a combination of the fact of Moffat's own like feeling that he's been criticized about this and like guilt, and like I think like I'm not a woman, but I think he does get substantially less sexist during the Capaldi years. It is my general impression.
But he's patting himself on the back.
Yeah, no. I don't think he's. The way I interpret it is that he's overly defensive because he's like, oh fuck, that used to be me. I used to be like really sexist when I was writing the show. So let me just talk about how like we're super not sexist anymore. We're gonna have the first woman Doctor, and like it's gonna be great. And we're so not sexist anymore, guys. Right? We're super not. And it's like, okay, you're trying a little too hard, man. Like you're pushing this point a little too much.
Well, I mean, nothing happens in this episode, but really nothing happened in the Feast of Stephen back in '65, where they literally just go and hang out with Bing Crosby and then make fun of his name. And they're like, they're like running around a film set, and it's like the Doctor and his companion just being like, "Oh, can't get caught by the cops."
Yeah. But yeah, this episode could have been so much, and it ends up being pretty middling, I would say.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's all this like questioning of like the doctor won't accept that Bill is back in hologram form
Yeah.
because her brain has been captured by testimony, which is basically just the tesselecta, but like good, and like they're storing everyone's memories in a big database. So it's also kind of like the heaven from Death in Heaven
Death
and
Heaven,
Darkwater. So
Right.
it's like combining all
It's-
these Moffat ideas, but not really saying anything new.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. And they make a big point about how, yeah, the doctor's got to stick around because there's more good to do. And it's like, I don't know, you haven't really established why he should want to do it though. Like,
Right.
He's saying, yeah, I've done a lot of good, but I'd like to rest. But it should have been that by showing the first Doctor how important it is for him to regenerate, he acknowledges that anything that he did to not regenerate would also be just
Yeah,
as
and I think that's the implication. I just don't think it's done that well.
it's just not
Yeah.
executed.
How
And then
do
hanging
you-
out with the Dalek, the good Dalek from
Yeah.
inside the Dalek. Oh, it doesn't work. At
Whatever.
all. It's so
Yeah,
bad.
it's such a random thing to call back to. Like,
Yeah. It's just very out of place too, and with the rest of the episode. It
The
just
one thing that I
feels
really
so
love
strange.
about this episode, though, which keeps it out of the bottom 2 slots for me,
Yeah.
is the stuff with Mark Gatiss of all people.
Really?
I like him.
I mean, I think the Mark Gatiss inclusion really ups the Britishness of the
Absolutely.
episode.
and the fact that he's in it's World War One, right?
That's when the Christmas
it's World
armistice.
War One, and they have the Christmas armistice. Oh my god, that scene is like fantastic to me.
Yeah,
They
that-
pushed the timeline by a few hours just so that
Had
they
it
could
been any other
have
day, it wouldn't have
peace.
mattered. But because it was, but I think that one's good. Yeah, I think that's a good scene because it's also another scene that's like, well, what is the power of Christmas? And it's like this is a very material
Yeah,
thing where you can show like even in the middle of like a world war, like Christmas could come through and save
Yeah.
the day for a bit.
that for me bumps up a very non-Christmas episode to like 2 or 3 Christmas trees.
Yeah, I would
2,
probably
2.5.
give it. Yeah, I'll give it 2.5. I think I
Yeah.
originally gave it 2, but I hadn't really thought about that scene too much.
Yeah, I would give it 2.5. I gave it 4 cups of tea though.
Yeah, it's very
Hell
British.
yeah, with
I give it
a
4
World
cups.
War One soldier.
It's
and
pretty British.
very British, and,
Yeah.
And
then
the
William
first
Hartnell.
Doctor. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
you
first
just
know,
Doctor.
being so excessively 1960s Brit.
Yeah.
right.
It's
It's-
insane.
It's very British.
So that's the last one.
why don't we review just really quick what top 3 and bottom of the list
Right.
is for each of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, my top 3 were A Christmas Carol, Husbands of River Song, and Last Christmas. And you want to do yours?
Sure. Number 1 for me was A Christmas Carol. Number 2 was Last Christmas. Number 3 was The Next Doctor. But could potentially go either way with The Husbands of River Song.
Right. And Victor?
Number 1 for me was Christmas Carol. Number 2 was Husbands of River Song. Number 3 was Last Christmas.
So we had the exact same top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Incredible.
our bottom 3
And-
was a little different. My bottom 3 was Voyage of the Damned, Return of Dr. Mysterio, and the worst one was Dr. The Widow and the Wardrobe.
For me, I had number 11, The Return of Dr. Mysterio, number 12, The End of Time Part 1, and number 13, Voyage of the Damned.
For me, I had number 11, The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. Number 12, The Snowman, and number 13, The Voyage of the Damned.
Yeah, so I mean, we all had Voyage of the Damned in our bottom 3, but other than that, I don't think there were any other things that we all had.
No. Well, you and I
and
had a
they were all
couple in the
different
middle
artists.
there at like 8 and 9. I think we had.
Yeah, but I think Victor had different ones.
That's
than
true.
I think-
so I'm saying that was we all agree Voyage of the Damned is trash.
Yeah,
but we don't agree on how trash it is, and we also don't agree on the other 2
Like,
exactly where they.
Basically, there's like 3 I really, really like. I really like the top 3. And then there's a few that I think are like pretty decent. Like I know they're in the top half, but they're I
Top
don't know
5.
what order it is. And then there's just like a bunch of stuff that I is just bad, but like depending on what mood I'm in.
Forgettable, it's
Yeah.
a year that we may want to forget even.
Yeah, like depending on what mood I'm in, I might enjoy that episode more than another episode. But it's all like kind of mediocre.
Very
And then there's
dependent.
Voyage of the Dam, which is just I hate Voyage of the Dam. That is at my bottom. That's
Yeah. But I think where Doctor Who shines in terms of Christmas specials is, first of all, you can write a damn good episode of Doctor Who and happen to set it on Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, you can have a really solid commentary on what Christmas means
Yeah.
in a way that I rarely see elsewhere. I think there's like a community episode that I think has a good take on the meaning of Christmas. There's I think Phineas and Ferb maybe has like a decent take on it.
but yeah,
But like most shows will just be like, what's Christmas about? It's about being with people and being generous and giving presents to other people.
I think that's something unique to Moffat. Russell, I don't really think ever tackles Christmas as like the central thematic.
Well, he just wants to write a good, fun episode. Which I can respect that as a goal as well.
Yeah.
Write a good, fun episode, and I'll be there. I'll show up.
But we all agree, A Christmas Carol is the best.
Yep. Yes. Carol is the best one.
I'm just so happy that we didn't have to fight about that.
Right.
It's
and
so
if you
good.
guys if anyone's mad that we left out season 1's and The Unquiet Dead, which was Dickens and did take place on Christmas, it was not aired on Christmas. So
right.
It doesn't count.
Right. Technically, Turn Left. Turn Left encompassmes a lot of Christmas too.
Because it happens to reference all the invasions of Earth, which all tend to be on Christmas.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you and your families continue to have a safe and merry holiday, and that
Happy New Year.
Have a great new year that will hopefully be much better than the one we have all just experienced together.
Or if it's worse,
we'll see.
We'll at least be more prepared.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So yeah, we actually are prepared for maybe even worse Doctor Who, because we're going to be recapping the New Year's special after it airs. We'll get that up as soon as possible. So look forward to that, and we will see you in the 2021.
In 2021.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, thank you so much, Victor, for being here. We really appreciate it. You can find us online at Talking Tropes on Twitter. And please comment, like, subscribe wherever you have found this. If you're listening on a podcast app or if you're watching on YouTube.
We love Twitter abuse. So if you really want to, rip us a new one on why you thought The Runaway Bride was the best Christmas special ever made and why Catherine Kay is a national treasure, tweet at us. We will respond. I promise.
I will say I've also seen some like listicles that put a Christmas Carol at the bottom. So, if you just want to have that wrong opinion, come at us. Let's talk.
Ludicrous. All right. See you later. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Bye all.
Bye.